Hello and welcome back to Continental Club, where we discuss the hottest topics in European football. I'm afraid we're not in the East Dulwich Tavern this week, unfortunately. Yeah, Dulwich Hamlet, who, if you're not from London, are a very trendy non-league team from South London, are having their general meeting, I think their end of season do maybe, in the East Dulwich Tavern. So unfortunately we are filming once again from home, but we will hopefully be back there next week. But I've got Michael McCubbin and Henry Hill for your viewing pleasure as ever. Spoiler alert, it is actually the second time we filmed this. The first time, Henry's recording corrupted. So we've done 45 minutes already. But here we are, fresher than ever, ready to go again. Henry, how are you doing?
Listen, if there's any aspect of this job I had to do twice in one day, it'll be chatting for you two. So that's the only positive I could take from this. Yes. They're
through gritted teeth.
They've probably been swearing and mouthing off at me behind my back before we started recording. So I can only apologise. But yes, let's crack on with the show.
Absolutely. McCubbs, you all right? Have you got over, Erling Haaland's arriving in the Prem. Bad news for Man United, I suppose. It just gets worse and worse.
Yeah, I mean, it was inevitable, wasn't it? I think the one thing I'm happy about, I think I wrote the 10 Football Daily predictions for 2021 at the start of the year. 2022, sorry. And that was one of the predictions that I made. Weeks of speculation over Ramsey. Exactly, a small victory. Just can't wait to despise him, really. Like, he's going to be such an easy player to hate, I think, as an opposition fan, whether you're a United fan or a Chelsea fan or whatever.
He's going to be injured
he just has that he's just annoying, isn't he? He probably will get injured a bit, but we've actually got a better one, don't we, Dukes? You reckon he's going to score? You reckon he's going to score 25 plus in the Prem? I'm not so sure. In his first season, that is.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, that's the big thing, isn't it? If he's fit all season, he's missed 19 games, I think, this year with injury. But I think if he's fit all season, he has the potential to score 25 league goals. I'm not saying he will, but that's why it's an interesting bet. But I'm fully getting involved with the Erling Haaland hype train. I think it's the one of the most exciting Premier League signings I can remember, really. So, yeah, let's see what happens. But today, we'll talk about more shock transfers that might happen this summer. There's always a few that catch us off guard and the rest of the football world off guard. And there's been a few talked about this week that would be pretty surprising. Not least Sadio Mane, who's been linked with a move to Bayern Munich, Henry. What do you make about this one?
Yeah, really interesting, this one. I was wondering, why would you ever want to leave this Liverpool attack at this time where, arguably one of the greatest Premier League sides we've ever seen? But, I mean, if it's true that he's a bit frustrated that they're not prioritising his contract over Mohamed Salah's, then, yeah, sure, why not go to a side like Bayern Munich, who I think are probably going to be having to look to make a statement piece addition in the summer, certainly if Robert Lewandowski is serious about wanting to move on. But it's an interesting one. He's 30 years old, so do you go and hand a player like him? Or there's more reason to hand him a contract extension than actually go out and spend big money on him in the markets. But it sounds like the rumblings of this might have some substance to it. We heard that their Bayern sporting director, Hassan Salihamidzic, he met the 30-year-old's agent over the weekend. And I was reading previously that he'd met with Konrad Laimer's agents over in Marbella or Malaga or somewhere sort of far too nice like that. And it turns out that looks like it's a move that probably is going to be happening, shattering Manchester United hearts. But yeah, Sadio Mane, he's still got it, doesn't he? He's been excellent playing that number 9, sort of false 9 role this season, dropping into the middle and also superb out on the left as well. 22 goals, 4 assists in 48 games in all competitions. The 4th time in 5 seasons he scored over 20 goals throughout the campaign, which is just unreal, really, isn't it? He's been what an addition he was since he's arrived in from Southampton, and he works hard as well. 14 pressures per game. He's pretty clinical in the box. Creative numbers down a little bit, but he's still, he still knows what he's doing when it comes to finding the back of the net. But I mean, for Bayern Munich though, another interesting point I think is that they're trying to tie down Gnabry to a new deal at the moment. Apparently, he's asking for some kind of wage in the region of £300,000 a week. I would say that was more a priority, getting him to sign on, because I do think with the age, him coming at a younger profile, I do think he's an excellent player when he's firing on all cylinders. Maybe he wants a fresh start, who knows? But I think for them, surely tying him down to a new deal is a bigger priority than spending big money on a player who's going to be 31 this year. All right, sure, forwards, they're getting older and older in terms of how long they can keep playing for. And I wouldn't be surprised if Sadio Mane was still an excellent player at the age of 34, 35. But still, I think that maybe is that there's other options for them out there to kind of keep that kind of young thread running through their side as they look to kind of push on and maintain that dominance. But it's an interesting one. I could see it happening, but at the same time, I would be stunned if Liverpool let him go. I mean, he's had an amazing year internationally and nationally, and I'm surprised that they are not doing more to try and keep him around, because I don't think he's probably as difficult as Salah in terms of how much wages he's asking for.
Yeah, definitely. It would certainly feel like a risk with, as we've talked about, Erling Haaland arriving at Man City, and Liverpool's goal tally has pretty much matched Man City so far this year. So do they want to get rid of Mane and potentially bring in a replacement that might not hit the ground running? Like, is there a guarantee that someone like Christopher Nkunku, if they brought him in this summer, would he have the same returns as Sadio Mane? Not necessarily, but at the same time, can they afford to keep Firmino, Salah and Mane into their 30s on pretty serious wages? Giving Salah and Mane big extensions? Probably not. So if £60 million came in for Mane, I'd be quite tempted if I was Liverpool at the same time, and maybe reinvest that in a more physical number 9 going forward as well, but we'll see. But my Cubs, from a Bayern Munich perspective, they've obviously had a disappointing Champions League campaign, being knocked out by Villarreal, and their domestic year has been solid but not as spectacular as we thought it was going to potentially be at Christmas. Is this the sort of signing that's just to sort of get the fans back on side and maybe energise for a Champions League push next year?
I mean, maybe, but it wouldn't necessarily be it wouldn't be very Bayern Munich, would it? I mean, yeah, I'd be watering at the mouth for Mane at Bayern, to be honest. I think he's like as perfect a fit as you could imagine for that forward line, like especially his tactical versatility, especially as we've seen in the last month. I mean, like, I struggle to name many better forwards in the world over the last month than Mane. Like, he has been just so exceptional, hasn't he? Has really become the main man for Liverpool in the run-in. So yeah, like on his current form, like I'd love to see him in that Bayern forward line. It's like, especially if Lewandowski were to leave. Imagine if he was reinvented, as a centre forward. But I think that is the kind of stuff of dreams, and actually the reality is, yeah, like, do Bayern spend £60+ million on a 30-year-old forward when, like, really they need to be replacing Robert Lewandowski in the long term? Like, it seems a little bit mad to me. Obviously they fell out of contention for Haaland a fair amount of time ago, didn't they? Like, it only has really seemed like Real Madrid or Man City were seriously going to get him in the last month. Obviously he's gone to City now, but yeah, like it doesn't quite make sense to me from a Bayern perspective in terms of their transfer policy. Like, I don't think they've ever really spent a huge amount of money on someone even over the age of like 23, 24. So for them to do so for a 30-year-old who, may well have another 4 or 5 seasons left in him, but may not, you don't really know. It doesn't seem to make an awful lot of sense to me. But yeah, on a purely football level, it would be an amazing transfer.
Oh, it would be exciting. It'd just be so shocking. That's why it's so good for this title as well. And you feel like with Leroy Sané, having improved so much this season, his return, featuring more on that left wing, like unlike he did at the back end of last year where he's being used on the right wing a lot. He's really, really improved, and it'd be a slightly strange signing from Bayern Munich, signing a not an out-and-out 9 to potentially replace Lewandowski for 2 years for a fairly large fee, especially when their major signings over the last few years, your Upamecano's, your Luca Hernandez's, etc., your Benjamin Pavard's, etc., they're all about in their mid-20s, building towards that next generation that can consistently challenge for Champions League titles. It would be a bit of an outlier in that respect. But let's move on to another transfer that's been highly talked about this week. On Wednesday, it was broken by Gerard Romero, who is a Spanish journalist, that Frenkie de Jong was supposedly 95% on the way to Man United, which seems absolutely ridiculous. That's since been sort of denied that it's that far along by a lot of journalists, a lot of people saying he's actually very happy in Barcelona, but it might come down to what the club need to do to sort out their finances, which still aren't in a great shape. I mean, Cubs, we've been talking about this potential move that, Barcelona might need to sell a sellable asset, and De Jong certainly fits that category for quite a while now. But do you see this one actually happening?
It's hard to tell, isn't it? Yeah, like you say, Frenkie de Jong, I think, is very happy at Barcelona. I think everything he's kind of indicated over the last 2 years, shows that. Xavi's also a big fan of him. I know he's not necessarily been, starting every single game. His form has also been a bit inconsistent of late, as has the teams, to be fair, without Pedri in the side. So that's not necessarily a dig at him. But But yeah, like, I mean, it completely depends on what Barcelona's summer's going to look like. And at the moment, I think it's quite unclear. Like, I feel like with Barca, we're always waiting for, like, the next piece of actual clarification over what their financial situation actually is like. Because, you know, like, before the January window, you know, it was generally thought that they weren't going to spend anything, despite, you know, Laporta giving it the big and in the press. Like, most people were like, well, there's not really a way around it. But then, you know, they managed to tie Titi down to that deal, and they managed to get Torres in, you know, through, you know, whatever, I mean, I say loophole, not necessarily a loophole, but essentially on a technicality by, you know, balancing the books in that way. Managed to get Torres in, obviously managed to get Dharma in, managed to get Aubameyang in as well. But, like, you know, recent reports suggest that those deals in January have now hindered them for the summer, despite, you know, a lot of reports at the time saying that wasn't necessarily going to be the case. And, like, you know, I think in March it was revealed that their squad cost limit, the kind of La Liga spending regulations, had them at like minus 144 million euros. So it's all a bit of a muddle, to be honest. And unless you're a football finance expert, which none of us are, unfortunately, we're kind of waiting on those people to kind of spill the beans on what's next for Barca. So yeah, I think it completely depends on whether Barca need to sell him. If they do, or if they do need to sell big, then yeah, obviously Frenkie is a prime candidate, isn't he? And I think that, you know, it's not just Man United who would potentially be interested. You know, like midfield, you know, top quality midfielders are in need across Europe. You know, Man City have been linked with him, haven't they? Even a club like Liverpool, like, might be looking for a midfielder this summer, mightn't they? So, yeah, obviously the draw for De Jong would potentially be linking back up with Ten Hag, and I think that would be, you know, in terms of from a Man United perspective as well, that would make it quite a positive move. I think for all the big money midfielders out there, I think Frenkie linking back up with Ten Hag, and even potentially, you know, a rejuvenated Van de Beek.
Oh, wow. Could
you imagine? Could be a potentially safe bet for United, even at like 70 million euros, as is being quoted at the moment. Like, big marquee signing in a risky time, but, like, you know, if Ten Hag's to be trusted and he wants De Jong, then, you know, I think he has to, you know, he has to be allowed to sign him. But yeah, whether it actually happens, I'm taking all of this with a pinch of salt for the moment. I think it very, very much depends on what's going on Barcelona's end.
Yeah, definitely. I'm taking it with a bucket load of salt, to be totally honest. I can't see him joining Man United. I mean, I've been proven wrong many times on this sort of thing in the past, but I think he'll have better options, much better options than Man United. But hypothetically, Henry, is he the sort of defensive midfielder that Man United have been looking at for a while, or do you think he's more suited to that box-to-box role that he was playing so well in under Koeman?
I think he could be. I think he's got the ability to, but I think the fact that Busquets has basically continued to thrive in that holding role shows that they just prefer him to be that box-to-box guy. And I still just don't understand why United just don't go out and try and get some kind of crusher midfielder, be it Ndidi, a Basuma. Just go out there and see what you can get, because there's plenty of options out there, I think, in the £40 million market, which is where United are going to have to be. And I do think that this is a step down for Frenkie de Jong, going to a club that just continue to miss the mark season by season. I think they did incredibly well under Solskjaer to finished second and third in the years that they did, and I actually think now the gap between Chelsea, City and Liverpool is so great, and then even Chelsea to an extent, because let's face it, when Chelsea are playing well under Tuchel, they're a pretty solid side. I think the gap's going to continue to grow. So I think for him it would be a slight step down to trade in the culture and lifestyle of Barcelona for Manchester United at the moment. I'm not surprised that he's sort of gritting his teeth and trying to stick around, because why not? It's still fundamentally an amazing place to be where he is at the moment, and I don't think only working with Ten Hag is the only reason I can think that he'd want to move at this point.
Yeah, I'd agree with that as well. They've got a much better chance of challenging for league titles than Man United do over the next 4 to 5 years. They're a more prestigious club, arguably, and I just think a much better fit for him at the moment rather than a rebuild job at Man United. Why would you want to commit to that for the next 4 or 5 years, as I say? Let's move on to Reece James to Real Madrid, and this was just by @Kane Lorenz, and I put this on Twitter earlier. I annoyed a lot of Chelsea fans, but I don't regret it. I've got no regrets in this scenario. I basically said that if I was Reece James. If I personally was Reece James, and I know I'm not a Chelsea Academy graduate that's supposedly grown up dreaming of captaining Chelsea, as all the Chelsea fans said to me in replies, if Real Madrid came in for me this summer, I would 100% consider it. I think it's a great time to be, a potential right back for Real Madrid, because they will be sorting out that position in the next 2 summers. I'd be very surprised if they didn't. Carvajal has had a lot of injury issues over the last 18 months, 2 years, and it has affected his form. He's been inconsistent. Having said that, I did think he was excellent against Man City, particularly in that second leg in the Champions League. Lucas Vazquez is a right winger, but he's done a perfectly serviceable job being a backup to him there. But they need an outstanding right back, and Reece James would certainly fulfil that category. He is, in my opinion, probably the 3rd best right back in the world, behind Trent and João Cancelo, and you can decide which order they go in. So we've all got the best 3 right backs in the world at the moment in the Premier League, I believe, when Joshua Kimmich is not playing there at least. And he's an attacking cheat code. Like his delivery is so good, his energy, his progressive passes, his progressive carries. He's fantastic in all of that. Probably a little bit more solid defensively than Trent as well. Can play in midfield as well, and just looks like an absolute potential world beater for years to come. I also think that supposedly his wages, apparently he's only on £58,000 per week, which is obviously incredible for any normal human being, but that's 21st in Chelsea's squad. And considering someone like Kepa's on 150,000, Saul's on over 200,000, Ben Chilwell's on about 160 supposedly, according to the reports I read anyway. He's probably quite underpaid at the moment compared to a lot of his Chelsea colleagues, considering he's probably been Chelsea's 2nd best player this year after Mason Mount, at least when he's been on the pitch. So I think he could be looking for a move, or could be gettable at least. If not this summer, in 2023, I think Real Madrid will be focusing mainly on Kylian Mbappe to complement Antonio Rudiger, obviously. And then 2023 might make a move for Reece James. And I think it'd be a great move for his England career as well. Hasn't yet established himself in that starting 11. It's difficult to, when you're in the same league as Trent, to really stand out. But if you're winning titles consistently at Real Madrid, playing for the biggest club in the world, well in the Champions League as well, you're going to stand yourself in great stead with Gareth Southgate to feature at right back going forward in major tournaments. So Reece James to Real Madrid. Chelsea fans, don't get at me too bad in the comments. I just think he'd be a phenomenal signing for Real Madrid, and I'd love to see it. Let's quickly talk about some other candidates who could be on the move this summer. Memphis Depay to Newcastle was suggested by the B&W Sheep. Henry, Newcastle are linked with every man under the sun. Do you see Memphis Depay popping up at St James's Park?
No, I don't think he will go there. I think he left Lyon for a taste of real glory and a chance to play at one of the biggest clubs and kind of fit his profile. For some reason, it's kind of gone wrong. I still think he's been pretty good for Barcelona this year. I think it'd be unfair to say otherwise. So yeah, I mean, saying next that he should go to Spurs isn't quite doesn't quite continue that trend in terms of success. But I still think that a club like Spurs or even Arsenal, I think he'd be much better suited this kind of side than he needs to be playing sort of top level football and Champions League football. I don't think Newcastle offer that. Just quickly on the subject of Real Madrid, there's rumours about Hakimi, that they were looking at Hakimi for right back as well, and there's talks that he has unfinished business there. So I reckon in a few years that might be something to pay attention to. But in terms of Newcastle, I think sticking kind of the Lyon trend, I think Lucas Paqueta is a much more likely option. I think they've been apparently Bruno Guimaraes has been bigging him up. They're looking for that creative midfielder to play, stick in there, and I think Paqueta would be an absolutely box office addition to that Newcastle midfield. So yeah, I'm more backing Paqueta or maybe Rafa Leao from AC Milan as a winger. I think I was reading that they're still trying to tie him down to a new deal. AC Milan, he doesn't actually, similar story to Reece James, he's not paid a ton of money currently, and he's a box office player at the moment, isn't he? He's unbelievable. So, and I've heard rumours that they're looking at him as well. So yeah, I think Rafa Leao, Lucas Paqueta first, Rafa Leao, and then Memphis Depay in terms of realistic signings to Newcastle. But I wouldn't be surprised if they pull off something pretty wild this summer. They've had such a good 6 months that I think they're suddenly quite an attractive proposition to anyone who's looking to earn a big buck and also go in a team going in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, massive credit to Eddie Howe for that on-pitch performances being so impressive recently in the back half of the year. It does help that when you get 90 million plus to spend in January. But these are exactly the sort of players they should be targeting. Rafa Leao is a phenomenal player. Lucas Paqueta as well. If they go from Isaac Hayden and John Joe Shelby to Bruno Guimaraes and Lucas Paqueta in 6 months, that is just a joke of an upgrade. So fair play to Newcastle, through gritted teeth I say it. Best of luck to them in the summer. It's certainly going to be box office either way. Final one quickly to talk about McCubs. Richarlison to PSG. This is consistently talked about. Do you think he's got enough to shine at PSG?
Yeah, it does get talked about a lot. I mean, potentially. It's hard, isn't it? Like, he's been in this Everton team that's just been constantly changed and has never really looked very balanced ever since he's got there. And he's never been like a big goal scorer, really, has he? Like, has he hit 10 goals in the league? He must have done it at some point in the last few years, but I'm not certain that he has. So that would be a bit of a worry for me. I think if PSG were going in for him, I'm also not sure how much he's going to be available for. If Everton were going down, then he probably would be available fairly cheap, but that doesn't look that likely now. So I mean, if you're going to get if Kylian Mbappe is going to leave this summer, then I think PSG need more than Richarlison to replace him. I think if I was the PSG hierarchy, I think I'd be doing everything in our power to bring Ousmane Dembele back to France. Like, I think he's the man for them. And obviously his situation is very much far from resolved at Barcelona. So I think that would be my priority for PSG in terms of getting a real star, potentially world class player into the forward line. I think Richarlison just hasn't shown on a consistent basis enough in the Premier League to guarantee 15 plus goals in Liga, and I'm sure he has the potential to do that, but I don't think he's a safe bet at all.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, to be honest. Swapping one of the best top 3 players in the world, probably in Kylian Mbappe for Richarlison, little bit of a risk, I think. Little bit of a risk. As talented as he is and how impressive his backstory is, where he's come from, I think that's a bridge too far potentially for Richarlison at this stage of his career, at least. But I think they also can expect a bigger goal return from Lionel Messi. I was watching the highlights of them against Troyes the other day, and he's hit the woodwork now 10 times in Ligue 1 alone, which is more than double anyone else.
Mad.
So whilst a lot of people say that Messi's had a poor season, and by his exceptional standards he has, you probably expect his goal return to drastically improve next year. I mean, I think he's on 4 this year. So if he can get closer to 10, then that will help slightly stem the flow after Mbappe's potential departure. It's not even nailed on, to be honest, at this stage. Guys, what do you make of our potential shock transfers this summer? Which other ones do you think will happen? Let us know in the comments down below, and let's move on to our big match predictions. Okay, time for big match predictions. And going into last week, I was on 37, Henry was on 35, and out of the title race probably was McCubs on 25. But Lille versus Monaco made it a little bit more interesting potentially. McCubs went 3-0 Monaco, Henry went 3-1, I went 2-1, which was a perfect score. So I get 3 points and each of them get 1 apiece. Verona versus Milan. This is the game that I went for a 1-1 draw. Henry won 1-0 Milan. McCubs went 2-1 Milan. It was 3-1, sorry. So they each get a point, 0 points to me. Atleti versus Real Madrid. Again, I went for a draw. And Atleti won 1-0, which is what Henry predicted, bang on the money. So great week last week for Henry. McCubs got 1 point in that. He went for a 2-0 Atleti victory. So the scores on the doors going into this week are myself on 40, Henry dead set on 40 as well, or equal I should say. I don't even think dead set's a word. Equal on 40, and McCubs is on 28. So a lot is riding on these games this week. And the first one we're going to talk about is Bayer Leverkusen versus Freiburg, which takes place tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. There is 3rd versus 5th as it stands in the table. There are 6 points between them. This is the final game in this Bundesliga season. And Henry, Freiburg, what a year from them. And they've still got a very, very slim chance of getting Champions League football.
Yeah, I mean, just a quick note on it being the final week round of fixtures. I think Stuttgart, they've got a chance of wrestling themselves out of the relegation zone, because I think if Hertha Berlin lose to Borussia Dortmund away, if Stuttgart can beat FC Köln, who incidentally have had an amazing season, FC Köln, and they're looking to get into the Conference League spots. Track that at the bottom end of the table. But yeah, up at the top, this is where it gets quite exciting, because as you alluded to, Bayer Leverkusen, what a season they've had, secured Champions League football. Very excited to see what they're going to do next season. But Freiburg, what amazing. Christian Streicher's been there forever. I mean, he was at the under-19 side, or he's really worked his way through. He's a real kind of I think, a loved almost grandfather figure of German football, and it's amazing to see that he's managed to reinvent this side once more. I mean, Vincenzo Griffo's got 9 goals, 7 assists from the left. You've seen Schlotterbeck become a sort of superstar this season. He's been replaced by Matthias Ginter when he goes off to Borussia Dortmund. Great move for Schlotterbeck, has to be said. So yeah, I mean, only finished in the top half of the Bundesliga 5 times this century, and they've got 10 more points than they had last year. I mean, I can't see Leipzig slipping up, in all honesty, but I really hope that, you know, even Europa League football is excellent. If we look at the quality of the Europa League this season, and I'm gunning for Freiburg in the final of the DFB Pokal as well. I think, I mean, what an amazing opportunity for them to end what I imagine is quite a long trophy drought and bring something back to the Black Forest. And it's a proper club. It's a proper club, Freiburg. I can see them going after this game. They've got nothing to lose. Leverkusen, their season's sewn up. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory to Freiburg. But yeah, I mean, I'm more all eyes on the Pokal to see if they can beat Leipzig in that second race.
Yeah, that's going to be absolutely massive. Both sides, interestingly, chasing their first major trophy. So that'll be absolutely fascinating to watch. McCubb, speaking of trophies, we've got Bayer Leverkusen to talk about in this game. Haven't won a trophy since 1993, and it feels like maybe with a few additions, and if they manage to keep hold of some star players this summer, maybe they could, maybe get a Pokal in there or something. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're always, they're rarely not good enough to win a DFB Pokal, to be honest, at Leverkusen. Like, they've never been an awful team. They've been pretty consistent in the kind of top 8 of German football in the last 10 years. So, yeah, like, they absolutely can go for it. And yeah, with this forward line, if they can keep hold of, I think they will keep hold of Florian Wirtz for another season. Moussa Diaby as well. Like, I don't know, maybe someone will come in for him, but at the moment, I'm not seeing much, many rumours surrounding those two players. And then their back line is also very promising as well. Another year under Sadio Mane, and I think they'll be more solid at the back too. So, yeah, I think this Leverkusen side can go far. As for this game, it's a tough one because Leverkusen have obviously secured Champions League football. Freiburg obviously do need Leipzig to lose, but I think they're going to be super up for this. I think Freiburg are going to win this. I'm going to say 2-0.
2-0. Henry, what are you reckoning score-wise?
I went 2-1 to Freiburg. Yep.
2-1 to Freiburg. Oh, just for the sake of the league and to get some points, I'm going to back Bayer Leverkusen for the win. Hopefully secure myself 1 point, but I'm not that sure about it, to be honest. I'm going 2-1 Leverkusen. Yeah, let's move on. Right, next game we are talking about is Rennes versus Marseille, Saturday night, 8 p.m. 5th versus 2nd. There are 6 points between them. Henry, great year from both of them, to be honest. They'll both be quite chuffed going into the summer break.
Yeah, I have no idea about this game. I didn't the first time we recorded it. I thought about it, and I have no idea the second time. It's it's tough. They've both just been Marseille. It's funny. I feel as if just teams below them have dropped off a little bit. Although they have won 7 of their last 9 games. Just that loss to Feyenoord just really confused me. They lost to Lyon as well recently, I think, too. Shock 3-0 defeat. So yeah, I can't believe they couldn't get a goal against Feyenoord to end that deadlock. But yeah, Rennes on the other hand, scoring goals for fun. Really, really impressed. Benjamin Bourgeois, he's been there for a while now, and he had a great season a few years ago. 9 goals and 11 assists this season. Martin Terrier as well, 21 goals. Who would have saw that coming at the start of the season? Certainly not me. I'm going to go for 2-2. By the way, shout out to Nantes for winning the Coupe de France. That's fun. A Ludovic Blah penalty to win it. I mean, what a final. So yeah, it's shout out to Nantes. But on this one, I'm going to go 2-2. I've been backing 2-2 all year. I reckon this is the year it comes good for me. This is the week it comes good for me, and I leapfrog Dougie in the table.
I love it. Finally, a 2-2 comes off for Henry Hill. McCubbs, what are you thinking about this game?
Yeah, coming Henry's thoughts, to be honest. I think Rennes have what a season they've had. Their attack hasn't been far off PSG's this term, has it? And their goal difference, isn't far off them as well. So it'd be a shame to see them lose out on Champions League football. But I mean, yeah, the 2 games to go, definitely the best race for Champions League football in Europe. I mean, yeah, it's mad. 5 points separating 6th and 3rd. So Strasbourg in 6th could technically still win it, although I'm very doubtful. But yeah, Rennes are, I think, going to be a force to be reckoned with in this game. I think, Bruno Genesio is going to be desperate for them to get a victory over Marseille and keep them in the race for the top three. I'm going to say, what did you say, Henry? You said 2-2. I think I'm going to go for a Rennes win here. I think I'm going to say 3-0 Rennes.
Wow.
I'm going to say 3-0
3-0.
I think I said 2.
Love
I think I said
it.
2.
I mean, they do have slightly more.
3-0.
3-0, yeah. I mean, they do have slightly more to play for than Marseille. I mean, Marseille are all but guaranteed Champions League football. They're 6 points ahead of fourth place Nice with a +6 goal difference as well. So if they avoid defeat here...
You know what, actually, I'm going to change it quick. I'm going to say 3-1. I'm going to say 3-1. I think Marseille will get one.
Okay.
Is that's
that crucial goal could make all the difference. I like it. It's gone to VAR and we have allowed that. It wasn't locked in. 3-1 to Rennes. I don't really know to go on this one. I'm quite like Henry. I'm not really sure, but the fact he went for a draw means I'm going to go for a Marseille win. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Marseille win. Right, let's move on to our final game. I'm also really struggling, despite the fact we only shot it about an hour and a half ago, to remember what I predicted in the first time we shot it. It's like it's completely gone out of my head. Anyway, let's move on to our final game. Milan versus Atalanta, Sunday 5pm, first versus 8th. There's 21 points between them. And because Milan are 2 points ahead, if they win this game against Atalanta and Inter fail to win their game against Cagliari later on Saturday night, they'll be crowned champions as well. So McCubs, they're going to be fully motivated.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty mad, isn't it? What a title race this has been. Who would have thought there would have been the two Milan clubs on their own at this point? But yeah, it's going to be difficult though, because I think, Milan, Atalanta at home and then Sassuolo away in the final game, like they definitely have it tougher than Inter. Inter are also, high off that win over Juve in the Coppa Italia final. What a victory that was. I thought they looked excellent, actually, to be honest. Like, were far better than Juve as the game kind of progressed, especially second half of the second half and into extra time as well. So I think they've got a lot of juice left in the tank for these final 2 weeks. So yeah, I think Milan, there is pressure on Milan and they've delivered in the big moments this season, haven't they? In many ways, you kind of back them to get over the line here, but for some reason, I feel like Atalanta, as bad as they've been in the second half of the season, they can still do damage to good teams on their day, can't they? And I just feel like there might be something here. I feel like it might, Atalanta might get something off them here. So I think it might be like a 1-1 draw.
Wow.
Love it. He's doing a Dougie. He's predicting a Milan a Milan slip
Yeah,
up. I love it. Okay, fair enough. Henry, I mean, McCubs makes a good point about Atalanta's season and form. It's been a really disappointing one.
Dukes, you're always going third. What score do you reckon this one? So close. What score are you going for?
I think it's a valid point that I always go third. I wasn't going to bring it up myself, but, my score lines are limited slightly, so I will go first. Or before Henry at least. I think, having predicted wrongly that Milan would slip up for a matter of weeks, I actually now think they will get the job done. I think Inter, probably at the start of this season, would have probably taken second place in a Coppa Italia. Albeit, definitely. Having said that, they'll be devastated to lose their Scudetto to Milan, who obviously haven't won one since 2011. But I think they'll get the job done in this game. I can see it being 2-1. Rafael just in frighteningly good form right now, and Sandro Tonali continuing to pop up with really, really crucial goals from about a yard out. So, yeah, maybe that duo will combine again on the weekend. But I'm going 2-1 Milan. Henry, what do you reckon?
See, interestingly, that was what I was going to go for. So,
nice.
You've got it. You've got it.
Fairness.
I was going to go for 2-1 Milan. I'll go 2-0 Milan. I just think Atalanta have dropped off their goal scoring, gone from scoring 90 last season to 65 this year. That is a substantial fall. I think they need to rejuvenate that front line of Zapata and Muriel. They need to at least get another option in there. Even Malinovsky's approaching his 30s as well. They always manage to pull a rabbit out of the hat in the market, don't they, Atalanta? So I've got faith in them. Bogart's obviously going there, but yeah, I've just been a bit disappointed with them this season. So yeah, I'm going to back Milan and their solid defence. We'll go 2-0. Come on, the boys.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's difficult for Atalanta, isn't it? I mean, it was a couple of years ago when they were punching high in the Champions League. I think when they made the Champions League quarter-finals, was it, and lost to Leipzig, that they had the same size budget as Reading. So they can't pay their stars particularly well, and they're obviously not an established big-name club as of, until about 5-6 years ago, really. So it'll be interesting to see who they can recruit in those forward areas, as you say. But yeah, they probably need to do a little bit of a rebuild there this summer in Bergamo. But guys, that is all we've got time for Continental Club this week. I hope you enjoyed our shock transfers. I hope you enjoyed our big match predictions. We certainly enjoyed doing it twice for you this afternoon. What a treat for us. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Henry, if they've enjoyed this, what should they go and watch now?
I did both of the explains for this week on FD and EFD. So you've got one about financial fair play, the changes and what that means and why some people might not be happy about it. And then the other one was on Ange Postecoglou, the job he's done at Celtic. Amazing job, actually. Really pleased for him. Seems like a proper, nice, just straight talking individual. I can't be straight talking at this very moment in time. But yeah, really enjoyed writing that one.
Oh, nice. Yeah, he does seem like a good guy, to be fair. McCubs, we've also dropped a new series on Football Daily this week, haven't we?
We have, yeah. We have. Speaking with Fabio Carvalho, soon to be a Liverpool player.
What?
So yeah, a new a new series all about Wonder Kids. So yeah, go check that out.
Perfect. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Have a great weekend. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week. Bye.